In the summer of 1975, millions of people in China went to sleep believing they were safe. No alarms, no sirens, no warnings. By morning, entire villages were gone. This wasn't a war, not an earthquake, not a nuclear accident. It was water, and it killed more people than most disasters in modern history. Yet almost no one outside China heard about it. This is the story of the Banqiao Dam Disaster. After decades of floods, the Chinese government wanted control over nature. Dams were the answer. Banqiao Dam was built in the early 1950s in Henan province, an agricultural heartland that depended on predictable water. Engineers believed this dam was strong enough to withstand a once-in-a-thousand-year storm. The design had limits, but those limits were considered safe. More than 60 dams were built in the same river system, forming a chain of protection. On paper, it looked perfect. Nature had been calculated, water had been tamed. In August 1975, Typhoon Nina arrived. Typhoons usually weaken after hitting land. This one didn't. Instead, it stalled over central China and began dumping rain, not for hours, but for days. In some areas, a full year's rainfall fell in just 24 hours. Reservoirs began filling rapidly, emergency spillways were opened, but they were never designed for this volume. Worse, communication systems failed. Warnings were delayed. Messages didn't reach decision makers in time. The dams held until they didn't. Just after midnight, Banqiao Dam fell. The wall of water that burst through was not a flood, it was a moving landscape. A wave several meters high raced downstream at highway speeds. Within hours, 61 dams collapsed in sequence, one after another. This wasn't one disaster, it was a chain reaction. Villages were hit while people slept. Houses disintegrated, livestock vanished, entire families were erased in minutes. Some survivors described the sound as thunder that never stopped. By dawn, roads, farms, and towns no longer existed. Official records say around 26,000 people died in the floods. But that was only the beginning. Floodwaters destroyed crops, contaminated wells, and trapped survivors in isolated areas. Disease spread quickly, food supplies collapsed. Starvation followed. When famine and illness were counted, the death toll rose to over 170,000, possibly more. This was one of the deadliest disasters of the 20th century, yet outside the affected regions almost no one knew. The disaster was classified. Journalists were not allowed to report freely. Survivors were discouraged from speaking. Even within China, the full scale was not openly discussed for decades. Why? Because this wasn't just a natural disaster. It was also a failure of planning, assumptions, and political pressure. Admitting the truth meant admitting that confidence had replaced caution. And that wasn't acceptable at the time. Banqiao didn't fail because engineers were careless. It failed because limits were ignored. Warnings about rainfall extremes had been raised earlier, but dismissed as unlikely. Design margins were reduced to meet political expectations. Nature didn't break the rules, human confidence did. This wasn't about evil intent, it was about believing that calculations were enough and forgetting uncertainty. History doesn't always fail loudly, sometimes it fails quietly while people are asleep. The Banqiao disaster teaches us something uncomfortable. When systems are built without room for doubt, when warnings are ignored, when silence replaces transparency, the cost is paid by ordinary people. Not immediately, but eventually. This wasn't just a flood. It was a lesson written in water.